as you look out, from here you can, I don't know how many you can see. At the high point of the year, there's several hundred mating nukes all down this part of the ridge. The next little nuke yard down is usually about 100 to 150 colonies, and then we stage four-way pallets, 24 at a time, down the ridge. What's interesting about this property here, it's too far to walk, but on the 102 acres here, we launch our queens off this main ridge, and it's a little better than a half a mile from here all the way down to the edge of the property. What that lets us do is we can stage drones, drone producing colonies on the far east side, west side, north side. The old farm is just south of here by a half a mile.
Cool.
So what we can do is saturate all four corners with the drone genetics that we want, and then launch our queens off from this ridge. So it's handy working the ridge to work queens rather than going up and down the hillsides and such. So yes, we're proud of our genetics, of the Caucasian stock that we've kind of built in and blended into our stock. But truth be told, genetics are important, but getting very well mated and having that diversity with the drones, I think, is more important. And so here we're able to do that in a little bit different way, to where the land that we're doing that is ours. We own it. It's a lot easier to access it, get to it, put things, do what we want when we want. So that's been pretty handy. But part of our queen breeding program is a lot of colonies you'll see out here. We have some test yards out here on genetics, some other really fun tests that we're doing that we'll share more about later. But our focus here is not raising a bunch of colonies for honey production. It's raising colonies to really trial what our genetics are doing and constantly moving things in a forward motion over and over and over again. We've now got to the point to where with our open mating breeding, we've kind of hit a little bit of a bottleneck. And that's why we've collaborated and reached out to Dale McMahon at Apis Engineering, Jake and I both, and learned with them, Crispin Given, on artificial insemination. So we can now, out of these several hundred colonies, trial, cherry pick, assay, test, and find the really shining stars and the winners from that. And now we can specifically blend the standouts together and then move our genetics way faster than we ever could just by constantly just open mating. So that's where a lot of what we do is heading. So because of that, we've got a lot of different setups out here for colonies. A lot of these are in smaller 5-frame medium boxes for mating queens, 5-frame nukes for making all of our splits. We do a lot of queens in 3-way 10 boxes that are divided out. And our goal out here is a lot of these, we just stack them up and see how high they go for a year. Some of these are really cool where we're in double or triple brood boxes with 5 to 7 supers. Those are the ones that we monitor. When those queens make it through the wintertime, those are the ones that we're looking to start grafting from next year. And so it's just the way we keep blending in kind of what we do. So this area here, as you look across this beautiful sea of goldenrod, all the hillsides in all directions right now is an ocean of yellow.
Yes.
It's absolutely beautiful. 2 weeks ago, we all couldn't be standing right here. Yeah. Because the bees everywhere would have been running us out of the yard. But now we're into our third variety of goldenrod that is now actually producing. Last night as we were working around here, Bruce and Brian and us, you could just smell all that goldenrod. It was just thick.
We don't have it yet. We can't
and you
smell
don't have it. You don't have
yet.
it. It just really started smelling the last few days. Now, none of these are honey producing hives, and so you'll see some of these configurations that look a little goofy. So we are intentionally really heavily feeding these colonies so we can take advantage of. Right now we have a little bit of a flow coming in, not a lot, but just a little. We're backfilling everything with bucket feeders and ProSweed to get them juiced up as fat and as happy as fast as we can, because what we'll do then is start balancing and equalizing all those resources amongst all of our last of our colonies, and we're actually making the last part of our splits here in probably 2 weeks. That might sound weird and peculiar, but we're doing downsizing splits. We'll take colonies that are in doubles or triples and we'll bust everybody down into a single box or a single box with a super on top. So right now the name of the game is on all the drone comb that we have, get it filled with carbohydrates, get it capped, and now we can blend it out and equalize all of our colonies late in the year, rather than getting into that weird dance where you try to build them up, they're too big or and not getting them the size that you want. And everyone has to figure out what size works for them, for their goals. For us, our primary purpose is trialing genetics. So for us, there's a strength in numbers on having a lot more colonies to be able to judge laying patterns, health, resiliency, overwinter, honey yields, temperament. What are they doing with mites? And what I'm really excited, and I'm not overselling this, but what we found is by doing this year after year after year, right now a lot of our washes are zeros and ones.
The mite count.
And they haven't been treated yet this year.
I was just going to say that breaks that mite count down.
So we're really heading into the direction that we want.
And I think that's the way more people should. I think they're afraid to do splits and stuff like that.
Right.
But I think the more you do on them, I think it does break it down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this part of the, so on the back side of the barn here, we've got colonies that we're trialing very specific queen genetics throughout, stacking them up, seeing what they do. In most part of the year, we'll have 8 to 16 cell builders out here that we're constantly grafting and making all the queen cells that we do all the work with. Grafting out front in the milk parlor and using all this as cell builders back here. It's just a nice, easy way to get in, get out, not have to jump in the truck and do all those things. And all the rest of the work is done at the other yards or on this ridge here. What's fun about the learning yard, this is what I think we're most, the genetics is cool. I'm proud of what we've done as a family over all these years. I'm proud of what the bees continue to do. But the learning yard is what I'm most proud about because this goes right back to beginning beekeeping. This isn't about us or our genetics or any of that. For a lot of you who have been here at the learning yard, when we bring the packages back from Georgia and you guys are picking up your packages from us, we go right out here and show you how to install those packages in these colonies. Well, if you are focused so much on queen genetics, why in the world would you do that? The reason we do that is it gives folks a solid point of reference. The day you pick up your package, we're installing packages out of that same stock into this equipment. Every other week, folks come to the learning yard. We can see how we're manipulating with a little bit more experience. It gives them a solid point of reference so when they go home, they can say, hey, we just did this and saw this at Nature's Image with those package bees. It gives them a great learning opportunity to go home, have a little bit more confidence, be a little bit more comfortable with what they're actually looking at. And what we're seeing is we're surrounded by folks standing here right with us today that install a package, have way too much honey, are spinning honey out of that colony, getting them built up, and they're overwintering. And they're doing that now year after year. They're doing things that folks say you shouldn't do, can't be done, and what I love about it is folks are learning how to do the right things at the right time for the right reasons, and the results are speaking for themselves. So this is a fun opportunity where we can show folks how to, okay, what happens when we install a package into 8-frame equipment. And this is Castle Hive Special because this was actually the Flow Hive Super. And I'll just quickly say this. For a very long time, if you say the word Flow Hive, if I just say the word, I'm gonna look. I'll just say it. Flow Hive. Look at how many grimaces, right? And I was like that at first too, until somebody who I sold a package of bees to installed it into a Flow Hive, and he started sending me photos of him and his daughters spending quality time together, beekeeping, producing honey out of it. They came to the shop and brought us their first fruits off of that colony, and I said, wait a minute. I can't do this. I cannot form opinions about something that I don't have the experience to back up. So I said, you know what I need? Let's get a Flow Super here at least and see what it's all about before I start forming that opinion. Brian, on the other hand, the Castle Hives, didn't have the best of luck with it. So he said, get this piece of junk out of my apiary. Can you use it at the learning yard? And then I said, absolutely. We put it here, first year, gobs of honey. You've probably seen the photos with Brian, all of the quart jars of honey, the different colors. That was right here. It produced gobs of honey again this year too. And so it's a fun way we can install bees and different size equipment. So we actually started in an 8-frame medium first. Then we grew them into an 8-frame deep. Then we put the Flow Super with the excluder right on top. They went right through the excluder and then went to town, and it was beautiful. So that was a fun learning opportunity because in that case, a queen excluder should have been a honey excluder, but yet it still worked in that situation. Well, why did it work? Well, that's a conversation for a different day. This particular colony is really fun. I've got a video. Hopefully I'll get it out this winter. But the church down the street came over. They had a swarm over here in the pine trees. Hey, you guys, I don't know if it's your bees. Do you want to come get them? We went over there, got up, shot a beautiful video. And it was such a beautiful learning opportunity because I found what I really feel like is one of the most perfect swarm catching configurations. You guys know that we work with Premier Bee products on the Pura Hive, and I love those boxes. We wax dip them. They're all over the country now. But we were able to marry it with an Apiary bottom board. And what was beautiful about that is the Apiary bottom board screws onto the bottom of the wood box. It's screened on the bottom, ventilated on the bottom, and it has all the closures up front. So we literally, and you'll see in the video when it comes out this year, we took that deep with the Apiary on the bottom, right under this pine tree. It was way too easy. I shook the branch. They all go in. I put a Hive Alive pollen patty on. We put some feed on there, closed it up, and went down the road. We brought them right back here. And is Chad here? Let's see. He's probably up front. Chad was here. We opened him up, went inside, and the reason I'm telling you this entire story, I warned you my grandpa was a preacher, so I can get long-winded. What was absolutely beautiful about this colony is when we went, as soon as we did a learning yard check, because I hadn't gotten in there yet. We caught the swarm, brought it back, put a bucket feeder on, give them some a pollen patty, and then we had to check to see, do we have the queen? What's their temperament? More importantly, what is their health like? Are they one of these iffy colonies out of a tree? Or are they a beautiful colony out of a tree? Where'd they come from? Was it somebody else's hive? Well, we're the only beekeepers in probably a 5 to 6 mile radius, other than Steve and Jane, which they have our bees. So it was interesting for me to see what is inside this colony. What do they look like? I get inside of there, and they're beautiful dark bees. And they were calm, and they were really going to town. And then I saw the queen, and I got goosebumps. I know that sounds crazy. Years ago, you've heard us on Jason Crook, Bohemia Bees YouTube channel. We were out here on the South Ridge, on the farthest eastern part of the farm. And from there, you can see miles in all directions. At the time, the old farm where we kept bees was just a ridge over. We're on that ridge looking this way, never knowing what the future held, never knowing what was past that horizon, what was past those trees. And after our bees nearly all died one year, a swarm moved in early. And they moved into a stack of 8 frame boxes. And just when I was getting ready to move that equipment off, thinking it was dead, I went to go move it. It's buzzing, it's full of bees. I crack open the lid. Dark bees, calm bees, extremely prolific. And I saw the queen, and I said, what in the world do we have here? Because the queen then was a beautiful, darker red queen with beautiful bands left to right with polka dots upper center. And I thought, I have never seen anything quite like that. I never forgot that. So fast forward 8, 9 years, catching the swarm this year, crack open the lid, we go inside, beautiful dark bees, calm. Just they had a certain purpose. They were just doing their thing. Found the queen and got goosebumps. You know what we found? Beautiful dark red queen, heavy bands left to right, polka dots upper spine.
Somewhere around here.
So exactly.
Yeah.
So what we found, we caught 12 more swarms this year.
Wow.
10 of those 12, same exact color configuration. So I think what we have here, and this, we're not on an island, but I think what we have in our area here, I think that we do have some feral bees that actually go back and I don't want to speak out of turn by saying this, but when I started researching and trying to dig into what exactly where does that color combination come from? What is that? A lot of that stuff went back to old photos from the 40s and 50s of buckbass queens.
I was just going to say the buckbass or those
Right.
black German queens.
Now, when talking to some of the people here, there hasn't been beekeepers for over 30 years in this area. What's fun to think about is the history. We're standing next to a barn that a German couple moved here. In 1900, they got married and they built a chicken coop on the hill. And they lived in a chicken coop until they built this bank barn to have as a dairy farm. That was 1901. There's something important about maintaining the history and trying to figure out where have we been in the past helps to know how do we go where we want to in the future. what's fun to think about is there may have been a beekeeper 30, 40 years
I
ago.
had those bees that are out there.
Who knows what they were called then?
Right.
They probably weren't called buckbat, but who knows what they were. It's fun to just think there's still a piece of history left in these trees that God's blessed with the opportunity to incorporate now into this stock here. What I noticed is when we leaned heavy on that queen and that colony all those years ago, that has been the foundation stock of our bees here, and they're really starting to go in the direction that we want to.